On this episode of the Star Trek Universe podcast, we are talking all about Star Trek Discovery episode 301, That Hope Is You, part 1. And we'll be talking about it right after this ad that we have absolutely no control over.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
And today we're here to talk about an exciting event, people. The first episode of Season 3 of Discovery.
Yes, sir.
Let's get it. Well, can I go first? Can I just say what I think?
Can I say something real quick first?
Okay. Yeah, fine. I asked if I could, but yeah, sure.
Not about this episode.
Oh, okay.
Season 4 is happening. It's going into production on November 2nd.
I heard that. That's great. That's wonderful.
I'm so excited about that.
Super excited about it. But I'm way more excited about this episode that we just watched. Season 3, episode 1. What's it called?
That Hope Is You, part 1.
That Hope Is You, part 1. Interesting.
There's no part 2 so far.
I wonder I bet it'll be the end of the season. I've seen them do that kind of stuff before.
It's not listed as the end of the season.
Weird.
All the titles are out.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, well, let me just say, I think this is the best Star Trek episode I've seen from the new era. Like, period. Including Picard, including Lower Decks. I wept multiple times in this episode.
Oh, I didn't do that. But
I cried multiple times. I freaking loved this episode. It is
a great episode.
It is... just as a standalone piece of media, like if it was not connected to Star Trek at all, this is like a great story. And that's what we needed from Discovery. And Discovery has been so reliant, in my opinion, on like past stories and like it's been sandwiched in this weird era of Star Trek where it's like constantly referencing but trying to not overwrite, what was previously done, but sort of doing a shitty job of it. And like this, her landing on that planet and being alone in a galaxy and her reaction to there being life signs on the planet before she like shot her suit back into space. Like, dude, I was completely enraptured in like the emotional context of the episode in a way that I haven't been with any other Discovery episode, period.
Yeah, I felt like this episode is basically just like a fantastic reel for Sonequa Martin Green.
Sure.
For the rest of her career, she's just like, let me just show you this episode of Discovery.
Yeah, let me show you what I can do. And she does so many different things in this episode.
Like the acting range on this woman. Good Lord.
Yeah. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And that's something we haven't seen as much from her because she's been trying to play this like half Vulcan lady, not half Vulcan, but you know what I mean, raised by Vulcans. And so she's been like really restricting that. And she's in such a dire situation that she's, and like everything she knows is gone. And then she finds out the thing that she thought she could count on still existing when she takes out her Delta and puts it on her chest. She's like, I just need to step back into the world, find the Federation, and they'll set me up. And then she steps out and like, no, that's gone. And that was really emotionally evocative, the idea of the Federation being gone. And then these last moments when she commissioned Sahil, I think his name is.
Yeah.
I cried, man, when she commissioned Sahil. Like, I knew it was going to happen. I knew she was going to do it. But like, when he wouldn't even, when he asked her, I'm getting teary eyed now because he would not deign to ask her to give him a commission. He's like, can you do me a favor? Will you put this flag up? Cause I'm not allowed to touch it. Like, I respect the Federation so much. It almost reminded me of like this guy is a Star Trek fan. You know what I mean? Like he's a fan of the Federation, and he's like, I'm not even allowed to do it. I'm not worthy. And she's like, you are the most Starfleet guy I've ever met. Like, you are Starfleet. You already are. But yes, will you be my communications officer?
Yeah.
I wept, man. I did. Like, I haven't done that with any other Discovery episode, and I've enjoyed portions of Discovery a lot, but this was another level, man.
Yeah, they had a really nice through line for her and a nice overall theme for the show, which is evident in the title, That Hope Is You, because time and again in this episode, Michael Burnham chooses to hope. And we start off not even with her. We start off with him. We start off with Sahil, who wakes up every day the same way and does the same thing. And at the end of the episode, we find out that every day he wakes up and he sits at that desk and he hopes that that Michael Burnham will walk in that door and reignite the Federation.
Yeah.
But like every decision she makes is a decision of hope. Every time she gets into a jam, she chooses to hope. When she chooses and hopes and trusts Book, and then after he betrays her, she does it again.
Yeah.
And just over and over again, she hopes for the best in humanity. She hopes for the best in for the whole universe. And oh my God, I loved it. I loved that she commissioned him. Man, I mean, I didn't cry. I got a little teary-eyed a couple of times, and one of those times is like, but my wife was definitely crying. Yeah, dude, it was such a good episode. It's so indicative of like what the Federation is, and a little bit of what we need from Star Trek, particularly right now.
Yeah, agreed completely. And even more so, you said indicative of what Starfleet is. I think this is like Starfleet reduced down to its like center. And like at this point, Starfleet is just a rumor. Like if I had never seen another Star Trek show at all, like never seen another thing, I think this would be an amazing piece of television. Like this could be the pilot for a show I've never seen anything else about. I want to show this to people as their first entry into Star Trek, because like it is so good, and it's like this is like modern Star Trek, and they're telling the story of like what is Star Trek in a way that like if I'd never heard the word Starfleet before, by the end of this episode I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I want to be a part of it, like, and that's what Star Trek is supposed to be, that hopeful future, and that hope is you, like. This was that hopefulness in a new context, in a different, like in a world that has fallen apart. Starfleet is gone, but these characters still have that hope, and that what you said, it's what we need right now. This is the kind of Star Trek we need right now in a world that looks like things have gone awry. We can still believe in the ideals of, seeking out new life and respecting that life and learning and growing and science, and like it just man, I freaking love this episode. I just absolutely love this episode, and it's freaking cool. Like it's got all the cool shit that we kind of almost make fun of, because sometimes it's like that's all it is. So often since 2009 Star Trek, there's like a lot of flash with absolutely no substance. This had all the flash.
I don't know that I completely agree with that. I know it's the thing that people like to say to sound smart.
No. I don't mean. I think you're conflating what I'm saying with something you're thinking other people are saying. Like, I don't mean that none of Star Trek has had substance since 2009. I think that Star Trek had substance. Even the movies in 2009 Star Trek had substance. But there are scenes, there are moments when people just like sword fight on top of a big thing that's on fire, that you're like, I don't feel any stakes here. No one's in trouble. There's no character stakes here. I'm not learning anything new about these characters. And that happens constantly in Discovery. There's firefights. There's this or that. There's just like, there's people running around, jumping, doing things. And I'm just like, I am learning nothing about their characters. I am learning nothing about the world. I'm just seeing a firefight for no reason. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying there has been no substance. I'm saying they tend to have lots of flash that doesn't add to the substance. And in this, every bit of the flash, every bit of the interesting nature of the episode added to the substance. It all taught you what who Book's character was. That scene where they're jumping from teleporting around this planet and like jumping through all these different environments, that like unmoors you in a way that you're supposed to feel how Burnham feels. You know what I mean? It's not just blast, 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 bang, bang. Like it puts you in the emotional shoes of Burnham. Like it's really, really good television. And it like everything they do in this episode, I think adds to the substance. And that's what I want. I love the Flash of this. And I never hate the Flash. It's just so often the Flash just doesn't leaves me feeling empty, leaves me feeling like I ate candy instead of feeling like I really experienced something emotional or substantive, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, in a lot of ways, the Flash generally just kind of bores me most of the time.
Right.
And I've agreed with you about I like when the Flash has stakes. But then it doesn't really bother me so much because all Star Trek has had that, even back to the original series, especially the original series just had like, let's have a bunch of, like a Batman and Robin versus the bad guys kind of like knock down, Kirk chopping.
It's the Gorn fight. Yeah. Like,
well, the Gorn fight actually had stakes and substance, but yeah.
Well, I'm sure there was a purpose to the fight. I don't remember it, but like, the way they overdo that fight and I don't know, it's like Saturday morning cartoon kind of fighting. You don't ever think Kirk's gonna die. There's no stakes and to me, I don't know, it's been a long time since I've seen that episode, but yeah, there's no risk in that scene. It feels like, I don't know. Anyway, I haven't seen that scene in 20 years, or that full episode in 20 years, so I can't really comment intelligently. But this one I have seen, and there's not a moment in this entire episode that I think is wasted on just empty Flash. Like, it's all world building, it's all character building, and I just absolutely loved it.
Yep, I did too. Dude, I really liked the personal transporter chase stuff. Like,
me too.
Man, that was so fun. I was just like, oh, this looks so cool. Just all of this is just... Can we just do this more?
I'm very interested in where this is going. The only thing that I'm not excited about so far, and it comes more from the trailer for what's going to be on this season than anything else. I love the idea of them like bringing back the ideals of the Federation and trying to reestablish connection with all the different worlds and everything. Like, that just sounds amazing to me. Her brokering peace between different races and trying to like form a galactic federation. Like, that sounds awesome. But trying to solve why the burn happened does not sound interesting to me, because it reminds me of Picard, where it's like the Federation fell apart, and it's like, why did it fall apart? Oh, it was a Romulan cabal. Like, I'm scared they're going to try to solve why the burn happened, and it's going to be like, instead of it being a thing that like just happened and then they fell apart, it's going to be some sort of, I don't know. I feel the way they talked about it in the Next Time On or whatever, where they were like, you're going to find out who was responsible for the burn, and you're going to rebuild the Federation. I was like, those two things don't have to be related to each other, and I feel like they're going to make them related, and that worries me, that it's going to be another, like, the Federation was destroyed.
It's going to be the Red Angel again.
You think?
And I'm worried that it will be literally the Red Angel again. I'm worried that it will be Burnham. They're calling it the Burnham. I'm hoping that'll be a red herring.
Yeah, I hope that's not true. Of course, it could be her mother, too.
It could be.
Could be a mistake her mother made. Yeah, that the Red Angel absolutely could be it. And at least that could be interesting from a character perspective, like her realizing this is all her fault. Maybe that could add to her need to fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty down for that. I don't want them to like find out it was a Romulan cabal, basically. I really don't want that.
I really don't want them to find out it was her.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me as much as...
I don't want it to be a Romulan cabal either.
Right. Yeah. Finding out it's her doesn't bother me as much if they do it interesting. If they play it interesting, I guess.
You know what would be really cool?
What's that?
If somehow it was the Spore Drive.
Yeah, that could be.
Like if they actually like came out and was like, by the way, you guys jump back and forth between all these different points and you weren't supposed to do that and you screwed everything up. Like you guys were not even supposed to exist. Like if they like actually made it to where Discovery rewrote the original series and something had like some temporal Cold War thing, if they could like just wrap it into everything, like I really like a lot of like, let's really tie in stuff from different series and like, let's make something, let's do something kind of cool and say like, yes, all this other stuff had to happen, but now it didn't happen the same way. Just like how, Trials and Tribulations and DS9 rewrote the Trouble with Tribbles episode to where like all those DS9 characters in the background, like, nope, now we've completely messed up time, like, and just changed everything. Like that would be cool. I don't know.
I hear that. And I am normally interested in that kind of stuff. I do, and I'm the guy who, when we were talking about Picard, I was like all about like, where is this going to lead with the Doctor and lore working together and all that stuff. Like I'm often down for that, but I gotta say, like the thing I loved about this episode is the fact that it's not connected to anything. This felt like a great story, and I kind of feel like Star Trek 4 since Enterprise, I guess, and really since Voyager, like season 4 of Voyager, has felt like everything is so reliant, no pun intended, on previous Star Trek content that they like lean on it in a way that I don't love. The Borg were that way with Voyager, I feel like. And then Enterprise clearly was, hey, let's go back and tell the beginning of the story. And I was kind of like, okay, I enjoy those shows in part. And then now Picard is doing the same thing. And even Lower Decks is like so rife with references. This being just like a really good sci-fi story is like, it reminds me of like when you're watching, whatever, the MCU, for instance. You're watching the MCU. And all right, Auntie Jeff.
It's just always like, it's always your go-to.
Sure,
you're just like, it's just it's so much like I don't know, what could I've never watched anything other than the MCU.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best cinematic universe. I'm sorry, it just is. No, my point is like it reminds me of watching the MCU and Guardians of the Galaxy coming out, where it feels like everything's been so referential of Iron Man up till now, or whatever. It's been like sort of building on each other, and then suddenly you get this out of left field like cool thing that is its own thing and stands on its own 2 feet. And you need that sort of a story told in a franchise every once in a while to breathe new life into that franchise, because you need You need an onboarding place for new people. You need a reason to care for these people other than just it's connected to the previous content. And I think this episode did that in a way that, like, I just fucking love, man.
Well, the reason I am in, like, the reason I was thinking about, like, roping in Enterprise and all that stuff is because, in the Temporal War specifically, is because in this episode, they mentioned it.
Yes, they did.
Due to the Temporal Wars, time travel technology was outlawed and destroyed. And they not only... That's not the only reference to another Trek series.
No. There's lots of references, but you did not have to know any of that to enjoy this episode. Is what I'm saying.
You didn't.
To enjoy the first episode of Enterprise, you have to know, you have to care what a Klingon is. To enjoy the first episode of even,
I don't think that's true. Okay,
I do. I think to enjoy the first episode of Enterprise, you have to care that look, it's the first Starfleet mission. You know, like, they're getting to leave Earth for the first time. Like, it doesn't feel standalone. And neither did the first 2 seasons of Discovery. Just making her Sarek's daughter and all that stuff. Like, it just felt very like, we got to hang ourselves on previous Star Trek to make this show interesting. This episode felt like I just didn't have any of that. It didn't rely on any of that. And it felt like they mentioned tons of Trek stuff. But it's the kind of thing where, like, if I were watching this fresh for the first time, never having watched anything of Star Trek, I'd be like, this is such a good story. I'm watching it because of that. And what are the Gorn? Why did they mention them? Like, who are the Gorn? I'll go back and check it out, you know?
Yeah.
This excites me more than any Star Trek has excited me, like, in a long, long time. And I was really excited about Picard when it was coming, but I am so excited about this now that, like, after watching it. Even more so than any of the Picard episodes. Like, I freaking love this episode.
Well, it's cool, man. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I'm very passionate. Sorry.
I see.
I am. I really, really, really love this episode.
I do disagree with you about how, I don't think you really needed any Star Trek before to watch Discovery. I don't think you needed any Star Trek before to watch the first episode of Enterprise. But whatever, man.
I don't think you needed it to watch it. I just think you kind of needed it. Like, they're relying on it to make you care about it. This episode,
I don't think they did, but okay.
Okay. That's fine. You can disagree, but that's how I feel. And I think this episode, like, it might have needed a couple extra lines to explain exactly what's going on. But her crashing on that planet and just being like, woman alone in the galaxy. No idea where she is. And it's just like, no idea. Worried she's on a desolate planet. That moment when she says searching for life signs, like, it really, really got me. Like, when she celebrates the life signs, like, I was like, oh, like, I was weeping with her for how excited she was to find life signs. I just, freaking loved it.
Yeah.
I like Book a lot.
Yeah, he's solid. He's a good actor. He was really good on Supergirl, playing Manchester Black.
Neat. I haven't seen it. I've only seen the MCU, of course.
Of course.
I gotta go. I gotta go watch Hellstrom. It's tangentially related to the MCU.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just teasing. It just came out today.
But yeah, I love that they mentioned the Temporal Wars. I love that that the Temporal Wars in Enterprise, I felt like it was kind of dropped quickly in Enterprise because they were trying to, like, move in a different direction. And then, of course, the show got canceled. But I love that the Temporal Wars had stakes. They had lasting effects on the universe. Time travel technology was outlawed and destroyed. So that explains where the Temporal Fleet is, because, in Voyager, we had the Temporal Fleet. The Temporal Wars happened after them. And speaking of Voyager, Book was mentioned, and Book mentions using a quantum slipstream device, which was technology that was seen in Voyager, Hope and Fear, and it was used by Species 116. And it was also in the episode Timeless, which was set in the future.
Yeah, I remember
I think that was neat.
Yeah, that's really, really neat.
And yeah, when he said quantum slipstream, I was like, oh!
Yeah, it's interesting to see how technology has advanced and gone backwards or whatever, like because the civilization has been sort of wiped out. Do you think this episode has the highest body count?
Oh Lord, I don't know.
Of most Star Trek episodes?
I don't know. There's that episode of the original series where like they go to that planet. I don't remember the name of it for some reason right now, but they go to that planet where like they're basically playing a video game.
Right.
And then like all of like when a sector gets hit, like the population just like lines up and just like walks into a death chamber.
Yeah. That's true. That's probably, that's probably, I was going to say, except for episodes that like, it's just like a big explosion, but you're right. That's like kind of the opposite. It's like I think for just like violent fight scenes, like the scene where they're jumping around throughout the teleportation or whatever, it was awesome, but they kill a lot of guards.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like it was a little gratuitous.
A lot of people die, probably not as much as Wolf 359.
Again, I was saying except for explosions of like overall crews or whatever. Like definitely like not as many people die in this as any Starfleet ship exploding. Like that's just the case. But like on-screen deaths of people like vaporizing, this was a lot in a row. Like just people being vaporized.
What was the DS9 episode where like they're like dug down in the trenches? The Siege of
War Stories?
It was the Siege of something.
What's War Stories? That's an episode of something.
I don't remember now. But that's like the one where they're like all like in caves and shit, and like the Dominion's like.
Is that where
trying
Nog
to bottle
loses his
through?
leg?
Huh?
Is that where Nog loses his leg?
It may have been.
Siege of AR. It was Siege of AR 558, and that was the one where he lost his leg.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like I remember the episode you're talking about. I don't remember the name, but I did remember that Nog lost his leg. So I was like, Nog lost leg episode.
Right. Together, we almost make up a complete Star Trek fan.
Combine our two efforts and Google, and we make up one Star Trek fan. One real fan.
The two of us equal one Scott Madison. You know, like, he's not even listening. I bet he's not.
I don't know Scott Madison. Sorry.
You should.
Sorry, Scott.
Is
if you're listening,
often on the I can't remember what they're calling it now. Star Trek All Access, but I think they changed the name
Sean
again. Yeah, Sean Ray's Star Trek podcast. It used to be the Discovery podcast, or I can't. Dude, it's changed so many names now. I don't even know what it is called anymore. But
that's cool. Yeah, I've listened to it a few times.
And he does the Prime Direction now.
Okay,
Madison does.
Sweet. Well, I can't say enough about this episode. I think it's super good. Let's see. I really liked the very beginning, the very establishing shots of this episode, after the sort of cold open with Sahil doing his daily routine. Man,
I would hate that bird alarm clock.
I thought it was cool.
I mean, it looks cool, but like in like daily use, I would hate that.
I thought it was neat.
Like, go away, bird.
Well, that's what he does. He like swipes it away. I thought that was fun.
But I do want the disintegrating sand bed,
right?
Or whatever. Like, I need that space in my house.
Yeah, that was super cool. All the like sort of Wakandan technology they used was neat. I'm sorry. Man of Steel. That's fine.
Yeah. Man of Steel did do that first. Yeah. Krypton, the Kryptonian. Which was funny because I didn't think about that, but I did notice that in like when Burnham and Book show up at that Federation base, it basically looked like half of the Krypton vaginas in the wall.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, in Man of Steel. Okay,
I don't know if you're going to be able to describe it any more vividly than you just did, and I don't remember it.
In Man of Steel and BVS, etc., the Snyderverse, as it were, there on the Krypton ships and in the Krypton infrastructures, there are these shapes, and they're basically vaginas. They look like vaginas. It's like they're like vagina-shaped things with lights behind them, and in the walls, and which people made fun of that, and they also made fun of the fact that there were like little pods that when the pods they put General Zod and his crew in looked like balls with dicks on them, but that was all purposeful. Because the whole idea was that Krypton had pushed aside and like repressed their sexuality and repressed the notion of natural reproduction in exchange for this codex horseshit. So like Snyder and the designers really wanted to like kind of put in a bunch of stuff in the background. There was like the repression of their sexuality was coming out in interesting interesting design ways.
So Zack Snyder's like the Georgia O'Keeffe of superhero directors.
You know he is.
Yeah.
In some ways.
I think that's true.
But yeah, but in that Federation base, like it's totally like those things on the walls that were like shaped like vaginas, but it was like this cut down the middle. So it's like little half vaginas. I was just thinking about that. I was watching, like, it's like a Krypton ship, but the vagina is halved. That was a long walk to get to that reference.
I know. Just realizing how much no, guys, you got to understand. It was so close to this thing that I know, because I know the DC is, because all I watch is the DCEU, and
yeah. No, I don't. That's not all I watch.
I'm just teasing.
I don't think I ever really referenced it on this show.
Oh, you do something. It's fine though.
Much more quickly, we'll go to MASH or Andy Griffith, I think, or Seinfeld. Seinfeld's the big one.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see Star Trek blaze real new territory. As I've said over and over, I'm a little worried about what the markers that they're putting in place. If this timeline she's in is going to be the actual future of the Star Trek universe, then I'm worried for what that means. Like, if the burn is a thing we know is going to happen in 800 years, like, what does that mean for how they have to tell stories in the past, which, is fine. It's so distant. We've never had somebody jump so far into the distant future. So it's like, it's hard to even really think. It's like, what does it matter if that captain saves the Federation? It's only going to survive for 800 more years. It's like, okay, yeah, I guess there's still stakes.
Yeah. Gosh. Did you ever watch Andromeda?
I did not.
Okay, so, because it caught me when you said they're blazing new ground, and the thing that all the haters are now complaining about is that they're basically ripping off Andromeda, because they went to the distant future where their Federation or whatever isn't a thing anymore, and they're like, we're going to bring our hope and optimism back to the galaxy.
Right.
And I had no idea that's what Andromeda was about.
Yeah,
I've never seen that shit.
I haven't seen it, and I don't think this is blazing new trails for, like, science fiction necessarily. I think it's blazing new trails for Star Trek. And, I think it's really nice. And blazing new trails both in, like, the kind of story that it's telling, but also in the, like, literal establishing of new canon for this 930 years in the future. The 3100s. I never really... If someone generally wants me to not listen to them, the first thing they do is, like, they can say, oh, they're just ripping off blah, blah, blah. Because I'm like, okay, there's nothing new under the sun. Right.
Period. Like, if you're a Marvel fan... And I've, a lot of people have complained about... I've seen a lot of DCEU people complain about Marvel movies and like, well, they're just stuck to this kind of formula and they did this and this and the hero has to redeem himself. I'm like, yeah, it's called the hero's journey.
Yeah.
It's the freaking monomyth. Like, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, that's just how we think about stories. Like that's the stories we tell ourselves every day to get through life. Like that's just the monomyth.
I generally just recoil at anyone who starts like, well, they're just doing this. So I'm like, shut up.
There's definitely like a line, you know what I mean? Like there's a line like with Discovery, they've definitely done a few things where it's like,
that tardigrade thing was
the tardigrade thing
was kind of rough. I don't know how to feel about that.
The Picard thing too. Not to get it too into it, but like.
Oh, we can. I don't care. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Have you seen the Picard? How Picard is exactly like. Oh gosh, what is it? Yeah, it's a video game series.
Of course, it is.
Where they tell Mass Effect.
Okay,
Mass Effect is apparently like a story about. Apparently once you get into the story, it's revealed that the thing that's coming to destroy all life is an AI because they created AI, and now these AI aliens that look very similar to the ones that were in Picard like are coming to kill all life so they can save the AI, and they do it on like a sort of a cycle where like organic life develops, it creates AI eventually, and then AI eventually reaches out, like becomes sentient enough for the AI like gods to come and like harvest them basically, and so they kill all organic, and it's like it's there's a lot of stuff in there though, like there's videos on it on YouTube, of course.
Okay, of course. There's
things like that are like, okay, maybe that's a little too close, but yeah, for the most part, there's nothing new under the sun, and like I don't care if something borrows from something else or if something is, you know, similar to lots of different things where it's like a combination of lots of different things. That's just what art is, you know, like that's just how art works. You take in all the things you ever see and then you build a story out of those pieces and hopefully put it together in a new way that sheds new light on the human condition, you know?
Yeah, I'm just saying, you know, that that's not any reason or any way to discredit something, because while I haven't seen those videos and I don't know Mass Effect based on what you've told me just now, I'm in my head, I'm just going, oh, well, that just sounds like the people who made Mass Effect decided to do Lovecraft mixed with freaking Terminator, which Terminator in of itself was stealing from Harlan Ellison's Demon with a Glass Hand and Soldier. Yep. I mean, like, you could just keep going back and back and back.
For sure.
There's like, that's not a reason to shit on something, is all I'm saying.
No, I think when it gets a little too close, you kind of have to go like, okay, you guys did a shitty thing there. Like it's not even, I wouldn't even shit on Picard for that reason. Like the show can still be really great. I kind of just shit on the writers a little bit when I'm like, ooh, did you guys like, well, with the tardigrade thing is like the more blatant example where you're like,
yeah,
ooh, I think you guys just stole that.
Like, I'm just like, yeah, with the tardigrade thing, I was like looking at the actual characters and going like, yeah, that looks like a pixelated version of Burnham.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a pixelated version of freaking Stamets and Culber. Yeah, that's like, this isn't good, y'all.
Yeah, you guys might have just stolen this stuff. That's not great.
And like Brian Fuller's over here going like, yeah, I told him. Like, nope. This wasn't my decision. I didn't want any of this. The show was gonna be different, y'all. All
right, let's get back. I want to run through a few of my notes here about this.
Oh God, you haven't already?
No, I haven't even barely touched my notes. I've just been talking about how much I like it. Basically,
right.
There's only a few things. I really like Book. The very first introduction to him when he's running from the other courier that he stole the cargo from, and he's like, that cargo belongs to me. He says, you stole what I stole, and he's like, it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to itself. And it's like that from the very beginning. You're just like, okay, that's like a, you know, that's a protagonist for sure. Like, I don't know what he has, but it's something sentient and he's trying to save it. Like that so cool. And then he tells the guy, open your damn mind. And it's just like, there's just no There's no Starfleet to sort of enforce these things. That's the other thing I really liked about the destruction of Starfleet. Like, it's very personal to Burnham, but by including the character of Book and his love of saving animals, basically saving species that are not humanoid, I guess.
Yeah.
You get a direct correlation to how the removal of the Federation has affected the universe, and how there's this vacuum that is left open in sort of like, well, in this case, it's specifically that's what I'm looking for. Conservationist. He's a conservationist is what I'm trying to think of.
Okay.
And so, like, there's no one to do that without the Federation around, and so he is taking on this like conservationist role. And it's just, just like Sahil is this candidate for being commissioned as a Federation officer, you've also got Book, who I think is like, I don't think he'll be a Federation officer anytime soon. I think him being a courier is interesting, and like having his own sort of like smuggler way about him. I love that.
She'll give him a commission by the end of the season. He'll be like Federation, officer to conservation,
Possibly. It's possible. I don't know. I don't know about it. We'll see. I think there's a little bit of like the roguishness of him being the Han Solo of the story, or the Malcolm Reynolds of the story, is kind of fun. And I'm not sure if he doesn't seem like a joiner to me.
Fair enough.
But he may. I think eventually he will. I think that, I don't know, man. I'm so interested to see what they do with the Federation going forward. It's so cool. But I loved Book. I loved that whole thing with Book. And then I loved that a temporal anomaly opens up off to his right, and it says on his screen, temporal anomaly open ahead, and he doesn't flinch. And that made me realize sort of how far into the future we are. Like, he sees a temporal anomaly, and even though it's outlawed, he goes like, oh, it's a temporal anomaly. Like, he's not like, I just thought that was kind of neat and cool for his character.
Yeah.
He's just very unflinching.
Well, it's something like what that reminded me of, and it was something that Mike McMahon was talking about about Lower Decks recently, where he was just talking about like they constantly reference all these old adventures and Kirk and Spock and all this stuff. He was like, because he was talking about like, this is the way real people would do it, because all of those guys are in history. And all of those stories are renowned at this point. Like, certain things get declassified, and like they just become like the thing of legends. It'd be like how we talk about, historical figures like George Washington and Teddy Roosevelt and all these people, like, or some, celebrities. Like, we're making, references to like Farrah Fawcett and Rock Hudson and whatnot. So, like, but these people are just like, especially Federation people, are just like constantly talking about like Enterprise or different enterprises. And the other thing was like the important thing about Riker coming in from that holodeck and going like, I was just watching Archer and the crew. And he was like, dude, do you know what that last episode of Enterprise means for Star Trek? People in Star Trek are watching Star Trek. Of course they're going to be referencing it all the time.
Yeah. That's funny, because that's very much the explanation we had when we were watching the last season of Picard, when we were like, it doesn't really make sense that they would know about Picard doing this. And I'm like, yeah, there's probably holonovels about it. Of course they do.
See, Book not flinch at a temporal anomaly. He's probably heard shit tons of stories like this. Like, oh yeah.
Well, he's also,
that happens.
Even though it's illegal and the tech was destroyed, I'm assuming he also works in an illegal environment, it seems. Or is there even a legality? Like, I don't know what law is here. There's no Federation. I guess the Andorians and the Orions are working together. I guess they have some sort of alliance.
They went right back to being pirates. I'm so sorry, Tandy. I'm so sorry.
They had those 5 good years.
I knew it was too good to be true. Back to pirating.
Green pirate bastards. I liked I don't know. I just Cinequel Martin Green just killed it this episode, and her going to Book and being like their whole introduction to each other, them fighting, and her being like, I'm not fighting you, you're fighting me. And then her being like, I know you don't want it to be you, but it's you. Please help me. Like, I need help, and you are the person in front of me, and I'm just like appealing to you as a human, like, or as a, I don't, is he human? Do we know?
I don't know. No, I think that he said that his little sanctuary was very much like his planet.
Well, but I heard that he's not from Earth, but I didn't know if he was human.
Yeah, I mean, he had like weird glowy things in his head.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell if that was technological or organic.
Well, he said a certain amount of people are born with it, and they're ousted.
Oh, I didn't know that was. See, I didn't take that to mean the thing that he had. I thought he said there's a certain number of people that he feels. Yeah, okay. I didn't get that. I did not catch that his powers his power to connect to these animals was the thing that made him different and made him feel. So it's like he's an empath, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah, because his people were all like, poachers and shit, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess that's interesting. So every once in a while, as like almost like a biological balancing system, people like him are born to conserve nature, whereas the rest of his race is out destroying it. That's interesting. No, but I for some reason I did not catch that was a natural ability and that was part of it. That's interesting.
I did think it was fun and ironic. I was like, how many animals have you saved, Book? Do they equal the amount of people you have like just completely dusted in this episode?
Yeah.
But you want to be an asshole Romulan, or not Romulan, Andorian or Orion. Yes,
or whatever Morn is.
What was Morn?
I don't remember.
I was just talking about it the other day with Bethany, and I knew what his race was, and she was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Morn,
Lurian."
Lurian, yeah. God, I don't know. I get on this show and I can't think of stuff, but like I'm sitting on my couch just like bullshitting with my wife, and I'm like, "Oh yes, remember this episode, episode 302."
Yeah.
My nerves, man. It's my nerves.
I just loved her appealing to his not humanity, but I guess just personhood. Like, the Federation is a hopeful, like, clan, and it has hope for people, has hope that people are going to choose to do the right thing. And like her petitioning him, even though she's never met him, and even though he's basically just tried to kill her up till now, she sees something in him that she's like, he didn't kill me. He's just trying to protect himself, and I need help. Will you please help me? Please help me. And it was just a really nice moment.
I loved it. I loved all of it. I loved the whole thing.
Yeah. The other thing we hadn't talked much about is her drug experience.
That was fun.
So much fun. I loved it. Like, oh, this makes you want to talk. Please don't give this to my redheaded friend. And then she talks about how she saved the universe, and she's like, yeah, I stopped the universe from just being destroyed. So I saved all the things. Like, you're welcome. I saved all the things.
Yeah.
That was so good, man. Yeah, I'm so pumped about this season. I really hope it stays at this caliber. So good.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I really do. I do genuinely hope they rope in more of the temporal war and rope in more, generally untouched or left hanging threads of canon to weave something.
Yeah.
I really do.
I'd be fine with it. I don't really want them to do it to a point that, like, that's why it's interesting. I just want them to tell a really good story.
Well, no, yeah, obviously, yeah.
I'm definitely cool with them tying all that in, or whatever.
I don't want them to do it so much that it makes the universe feel small.
Yes, agreed.
But the temporal wars was a thing that I was just like, I love time travel, and I loved the notion of the temporal wars. So when that was kind of, eschewed in Enterprise, I was generally disappointed. Yeah. I wanted to know who it was. Of course, I think it was Romulans, so you'd probably be upset. Like they wound up saying that it would have been a Romulan, the future guy.
It's not that I mind Romulans being like responsible. It's that I don't like when they tease us with the idea that something's going to be like the downfall of the Federation. The Federation has lost its way. The Federation is gone. And then it just ends up being like someone else's fault. I kind of just want like the Federation to take responsibility for something here and there.
Yeah, no, of course.
Like the Federation to actually be responsible for having messed something up, I don't know.
Yeah. But it is funny, though. I'm just saying it's funny because you were just saying, I don't want it to be a Romulan cabal.
Yeah.
And then I'm talking about Future Guy. I'm like, actually, no, I think they came out and said Romulan, or the temporal guy, the Future Guy, as we called him.
Right.
In Enterprise was the leader of a Romulan cabal.
Yeah.
I remember when Enterprise came out, we were like, who's Future Guy? Oh, it's F and Cisco, man. I know it.
That would have been great.
We had all these like theories and shit that never panned out.
Yeah, that's really funny. But again, no problem with Romulans. Fine with Romulans. I just want I just want something else. I don't know.
To get you through this?
I need something to get me from there to here.
It's a long road getting from there to here.
Mm-hmm.
In this semi-charm kind of life.
Well, that's about all I got to say about this episode. You got anything else you want to dive into, or that you're excited about for the season?
I do want to ask you how, because I was thinking about this earlier. Do you think they'll make Saru the captain of Discovery, or do you think they'll make Michael Burnham the captain? Because Burnham almost got her own ship. Like, they were talking about giving her own ship in the first episode.
I don't know. I don't think she's the best captain material.
I think she's perfect captain material. I mean, people talk about how she's a Mary Sue, but I don't think she's any more of a Mary Sue than, honestly, Kirk or Picard or Cisco. I mean, Cisco, spoilers, was literally birthed from a god. I mean... Right.
I think that...
I'm fine with it.
I don't care if she's a Mary Sue, really. I don't think she
is. I don't personally think she is. She's good at things, but they're Starfleet officers. They better damn well be good at things.
Yeah, but I guess I'd rather Saru be captain. I guess if I'm really thinking about it. I don't know that she needs to be under his command, though. I think I like the role that she's taking on now of trying to rebuild the Federation. Like, I kind of want her to be like...
That's fair.
The Federation founding officer that's like running around, because he mentioned there's 2 other Federation vessels on his. Yeah, dude.
But he didn't say that he knew who they were.
Exactly.
Like, he's been waiting on somebody coming. He's been waiting and hoping for somebody to come.
Right.
So like he's just scanning those sectors.
Yeah.
Now they might be like ships that are like derelict and taken over by other factions. Like, who the hell knows what those are?
I have no idea. And how does this all tie in with that one shot? That's another thing I really want to know.
Which one shot? What are you talking about?
The short trek. Happens,
Calypso. Yeah,
that happens in the future, where
with Aldous Hodge.
Discovery is out in the future here.
Yeah, that's still a thing. That's still floating out there in the ether.
Yeah.
Of course, they could do anything. Like, they've literally had, on Voyager, they had like duplicate ships that were created by, whatever. I don't remember. I barely remember Voyager sometimes. I remember the better time travel episodes, but but yeah, I mean, they could actually have a duplicate Discovery somehow that's laying around out there. Like, who knows? Like, they could do whatever.
Absolutely.
And I want to see them do that whatever.
Me too. And I'm so pumped, man. We got a whole season of this show coming. How many episodes are they doing? 13?
I don't know.
13?
Yeah, 13.
Okay. So 13 episodes. That's exciting. Mm-hmm. That's probably 13 weeks of really good Star Trek coming at us. And then I don't know when Picard's coming back. I don't know if it was delayed for COVID.
It was delayed for COVID, yeah.
So it's probably going to be a little while.
Yeah, and they're already going into production in November 2nd, I think they said, for Discovery Season 4. And they're doing, like Kurtzman was just saying, that a lot of the precautions from other non-Trek related shows were going to wind up making new worlds. Like, they were going to be utilizing some of those new precautions to get new worlds, or strange new worlds, up and running. I'm pumped, man. There's a lot of Star Trek coming our way, and I'm down. Yeah,
dude. Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Star Trek Universe podcast. We'll be back very, very soon to talk about the next episode. And I'd really like to keep these going because I'm just so excited to talk about this show.
By the way, can I say something real quick?
Of course.
this is interesting. I just noticed that one of the episodes is called Unification 3 for this season. There's no Unification. Well,
there's
1 and 2,
there is
except
Unification
for the
part 1 and 2 and
TNG.
Yeah, so I'm guessing she's trying to unify. I wonder if what she's trying to unify there, or they are. Is it still trying to unify the Romulans and the Vulcans? Like, has it been 1,000 years and they're still?
I'm telling you this though, it's written by Kirsten Beyer, and when you look on Memory Alpha, it says ARC Vulcan Romulan Reunification.
Interesting,
dude. This season, man.
Yeah, I feel like we're just scratching the surface on this new galaxy. Really, like. Where I feel like every episode we could be introduced to where a different race is, and it would be really exciting to see.
Yeah. Oh god.
Like I want to know everything about the 1,000 this 1,000 years in the future. Mm-hmm. And they have Discovery too, which means they can probably skip around the universe if they want to. I'd love to see them head out to the Dominion and like see what's going on out there, and then like jump over and see I don't know, man. See what the Borg are up to 1,000 years later.
Yeah,
dude. Gamma, Delta, Beta, Alpha. Hit them all, man. Hit all the quadrants.
Yeah,
that's what they call a 4-quadrant show right there.
Oh
well, anything else you got there, Dave?
No. I don't think so, man. I think I've exhausted all of my enthusiasm for the night.
I hear that. All right, guys. Well, we'll be back with you guys very soon. Again, hit us up at strandedpanda.com. You can join the Stranded Panda Army. It's like a little email list. We send out emails kind of like telling you about what's going on in the network, what we're all excited about, whatever the episode of the week is, and then we always have trivia that we're due, and yeah, it's good times over there at Stranded Panda. Check it out. And join us on our other shows and everything, and we'll be back very soon. Until next time, true believers.
What?
Because they set it up true. They said true believers a lot in this episode, and that's how we end the MCU cast.
Right. I forgot about that part. I was just like, damn it, are you back on the MCU?
No, man. Wrong Fair show. Enough. That was it was deliberate. That was deliberate. Okay. That was deliberate.
Good. Joe long true and live long and prosper, my friends.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.